Hi everyone, welcome back for lesson 2, food is fuel. Today we'll be going over a little bit about how food gives us energy, and we'll talk about why the obesity rates are increasing in the United States and Americans gaining more weight. Before we get started, go ahead and get that food and activity log filled out. Make sure that this is based off yesterday's activity levels and meals. Don't forget any beverages, condiments, and toppings that you had throughout the day. And then that way you're prepared for the end of this lesson to go over to see if maybe anything needs to be swapped out or if any changes need to be made, basically. Starting with the poll question, which is more of something just to think about. The main reason Americans are gaining weight is because portions are very large and people eat all of what is served. People snack all day long plus eat large meals. They spend more time watching TV or at the computer. Or is it because they think physical activity is hard to do? And by the end of this lesson, you'll find out what contributes to Americans gaining weight and how you can make more positive improvements into your everyday life. Okay, so what contributes to the rising obesity rate in the United States? And it's really simple as Americans are just eating too much and moving less. This was mentioned in lesson 1, I believe. And so what that basically means is that we are eating more than we need to. So our caloric intake is increasing day by day, and then we're just not moving enough. We're not exercising. Maybe it's because someone works at the desk all day and is too tired once they come home. We all are students, so we're sitting at the desk for long periods of time, and then we're doing homework and we're reading, and it's a lot of sitting down. And so what are we doing to make sure that we're including more of movement? So I mentioned that we're eating too much, right? And so the average person is actually consuming an additional 600 calories a day. So this can add up over time, right? And that's what's contributing to that obesity rate. And so those 600 calories can look like 3 cans of soda, maybe 2 candy bars. And although, at times we can surely enjoy these foods, but are we also getting enough of those nutrients that our body needs, especially because during the growth and development stage, we should definitely put that as a priority, but still enjoying what we like, right? So we take a look at body mass index, which is also known as BMI. And maybe this is something that you've already heard before or studied in one of your classes. So BMI is the measurement of fat based off of your weight and your height. But this is kind of confusing and conflicting because apparently you look at this number and it's supposed to tell you whether you're overweight, underweight, or right at the perfect weight for your height. However, BMI cannot tell the difference between how much of your weight is coming from fat and how much of it is coming from muscle. So you can see how this can be confusing. That's why when we look at health, we kind of have to look at the whole picture. What other contributions is this person making in their daily lives to impact that? So we look and see, are they physically active? Do they have a job that's sitting, or are they moving around a lot? Are they getting enough nutrients in their day? Are they eating enough? What type of foods are they eating? Is there a lot of processed foods? These are all factors that we have to ask and include in determining whether or not someone is at risk. So the time that BMIs are useful is going to be comparing rates over time with large number of people. So why should people care about the obesity rates rising? And then simple answer is lifelong health. We want to be healthy and keep going and live as long as we can, or at least that's my goal, right? And hopefully it's yours too. So obesity is linked to an increased risk of diabetes and heart disease. And good nutrition, what does that mean to you? And good nutrition can mean a variety of things, and it differs between individuals. So here we're talking that good nutrition is that relationship between what the body needs and then the quantity that you're getting in. So Basically, it just comes down to nutrition and energy needs. And so, nutrition is the 5 food groups that you're supposed to get in. Are you getting enough fruits and vegetables, grains, dairy, and the benefits that we reap off of it because it helps us support different functions for our body? And then to meet our energy needs, are we getting enough calories for our bodies to keep going? You know, like again, we've mentioned it in lesson one, the food calories give us energy, so energy is going to help us stay more alert, awake, and focused, especially during this time while we're studying and doing school from home. So here we're going to take a look at different ways of how energy is being met. However, it depends on the individual of how it can be, it can vary. So food is energy measured in calories. So basically, the more calories food has, the more energy you're going to get out of it, because metabolism is this chemical process that happens in the body, and it breaks down the food that we eat to release that energy. And so every person's metabolic rate is slightly different. And this is true because it varies from person to person based off of your age, your height. It also includes your weight, and then the activity level, and lastly, genetics. Genetics is a big part of the way our metabolism works in our bodies. So body burns calories whenever it does anything. What this means is that just me sitting here or even yourself right now, you know, listening and watching to this lesson, we are burning calories right now. But if we need to go for a run or for a walk, we're still burning calories. And even when we sleep at night, we're still burning calories. So body weight depends on many factors. Again, everybody is different. So there's going to be some factors that we can control and we cannot control. And if you're thinking genetics is something that we can't control, you're right. That's something that, you know, this is how our makeup is. And so this is the way it's going to be. However, other factors that can be controlled are going to be, you know, perhaps it's food availability, food preferences, what you're choosing to eat can make a difference. And also like your everyday habits. Are you physically active? How active are you? And the type of activity that you're including in your days. These are all things that we can control, and whether or not you are choosing to do them. And then understanding the serving size and determining how much to eat. This is a little bit tricky, but it's easier said than done. So understanding the serving size, when we take a look at that foods label on the back of the package, it'll often tell us the serving size that's there with the calories, right? And so everybody, because based off our metabolic rate and also on our genetics and all of that, it's going to vary. So this is just a standard serving size, which rule of them is not to be too strict on that serving size. Instead, listen to what your body needs. If you are hungry or if you got enough calories for the day, perhaps you're physically active or you play a competitive sport, your demands are going to be higher to someone who may not be as intense with physical activity, or maybe it's genetics. So the quality of foods matter. The quality is just getting a variety of foods to meet our demands, and also choosing to not avoid processed foods, but mostly just to take it down a notch, right? We want as minimal as possible so that we're ensuring that we are getting enough that our body needs. We already mentioned that food calories in food gives us energy. And then if we're choosing a variety of food, then we're getting enough nutrients to help grow and develop. So quality just means food as a whole, not calorie counting or individual foods, because if we're eating a variety, we're getting multiple nutrients from different things. And also, calorie count, if we're choosing to, this might be something that we're going to learn in lesson 3, so I won't dig into that just yet. So on here, we're going to take a look and see what each place belongs to and part of the food groups. So we have dairy, protein, veggies, fruits, and grains, which you learned in lesson 1 and perhaps what you've learned through My Plate in the past. And so I'm just going to go through the list, and maybe you can think about it and pause the video to see which food groups they belong to, and then check back again to see if you got them correct. So popcorn. Popcorn is part of the grains. It's something that we often think about when we go to movie theater, and it's just filled with a lot of butter and salt. However, if you are choosing to make popcorn at home, maybe cutting back on that butter and salt can really make it not just a nutritious snack, but still delicious. Pickles. This one is a little bit tricky. Pickles are made from cucumbers, which we recognize as a vegetable. And however, it's considered an empty calorie. Not that cucumbers are empty calories, but pickles, because they have a lot of sodium. So instead, these empty calorie foods that we learned in lesson 1 are something that we should take a look at to see, are we getting enough of our nutrient needs? And if we're not, how many empty calories are we consuming? And can anything be swapped out? So pickles still can be enjoyed. Perhaps you like eating them with a sandwich. Let's take a look to see what more nutrient-rich foods you can add. Okay, and then avocados. These are technically a fruit because they have a seed. However, we recognize them as vegetables. So My Plate has placed them in the vegetable category. And then water doesn't belong to any of these food groups, but instead this is very important for your body and to make sure you're staying hydrated throughout the day. Eggs are part of the protein group. And then bacon, something that many people love and enjoy. However, bacon is part of the empty calories group because it is high in fat. And, just like we mentioned with the pickles, can still be enjoyed. However, take a look to see maybe how many pieces of bacon you're eating or how often, and can this be substituted at times to making sure we are getting enough nutrients. So I thought this poster was pretty cool because sometimes I think we forget what we learn, and seeing that and today, everywhere we go, portions are large. And so if we take a look here, we can see that in the 1950s, French fries have gone from 2.4 ounces to 6.7. A burger went from 3.9 to 12. And here's the big hit. Soft drinks have gone from 7 ounces to 42 ounces, which is quite excessive. I'm trying to choose a better word for that. But, we have not only grown to eat more, our portions have also increased as time has gone on, right? So, how can we fix this? Or better yet, how can you correct this so that way you're still enjoying food when you go out to eat, or when we can go out to eat like we used to, and still enjoy these foods, but taking a step back to realize maybe you've had enough. So some tips that we have here are that, perhaps ordering smaller fries on the menu, maybe replacing that 42-ounce soda with something smaller, or perhaps you are someone who doesn't even drink all of the soda, so maybe opting for like a fruit juice that's 100% fruit juice, or some water. Another tip that we have here is perhaps splitting your plate in half and setting the one half aside already to take home and eating the half that's on the plate. And lastly, when everything's back to normal, we can share a meal with someone. And then that way you both are satisfying your hunger and your needs and not overeating. And then that way you can try to reduce the amount of the extra calories that you're eating in a day. And so, fun fact here, which is maybe not so fun, but adults are averaging 26 pounds heavier now than they did back in 1950s. And so, other thoughts and that you may have that contributes to this, you're more than welcome to have that discussion at home or just to think about it now. So we're going to take a look at the serving size. So serving size varies from person to person. And I've already mentioned that if you're physically active, your portions are going to be a little bit larger than someone who isn't, or perhaps you need a little bit extra because your metabolism is a little bit faster than someone who isn't. So this is just a guide. This guide is just going to show you about just how much dairy you should have or protein and fruits and vegetables and the size just based of your hand. Okay, so let's look at your log. So your activity log. How many minutes of activity did you include in your day? And can maybe compare it with lesson 1 to see if you've added more minutes or more days to your week to see if you're becoming a more active, what types of activity you're doing. Is it like moderate activity or vigorous? And then just take a quick look and analyze that and see if any changes need to be made. Remember that teens need 60 minutes of physical activity a day. And although that seems like a lot, you can definitely break this down throughout your day. So if you're like to get up early morning, maybe doing a 10-minute stretch before classes, or, shaking your body around and maybe dancing to some music before school starts. Maybe it's sitting for a few hours for classes and getting up and standing instead of sitting to kind of help move your body. These all add up. How much food did you eat? Was it enough to balance your activity levels? So with physical activity, however many calories you've burned, you want to make up for it in the food that you eat. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you get to eat whatever you'd like. You still need to make sure that you are receiving enough of the nutrients that your body needs, right? Because you're still growing, you're still developing, and you're going through school right now. It's coming to the end, so you definitely need that extra boost. Okay, and then we already went over this. Energy balance occurs when you eat the same amount of calories that you burn through activity and daily movement. So now take a look at your food log. You should have written down the empty calories and taking a look to see how many empty calories there are and perhaps being able to swap it for something else. So shift the focus on quality and quantity rather than calories. Look at food groups and foods within the groups, and then trade some empty calorie foods for nutrient-rich foods. This seems very repetitive, but can't emphasize this enough, how these small changes can really affect us long-term. Okay, so let's take a look at the picture where the top one for lunch. It's on the left, we have a turkey sandwich, chips, and sports drink. And if you swap some items out, like the empty calories that we've mentioned, it can look like a glass of milk, turkey sandwich, and carrot sticks. Maybe chips and that, sports drink are the only 2 empty calories that you have. Maybe consider having water or a glass of milk with your lunch instead of the sports drink, or maybe even diluting the sports drink with some water so it's not as rich and sugary. Although it can taste good, those added sugars should stay at a minimum. And then let's take a look at breakfast. So on the left, we have donut and orange juice. And so on the right, it's still satisfying that sweetness and fruity taste. So it's a yogurt and fruit smoothie that has more nutrient dense foods in there. If you are choosing to swap something out from the left, making sure that perhaps orange juice is 100% fruit juice, or even eating fresh oranges as a substitute. Donut, maybe the donut is quite large. Is that something that you can cut in half and save for later for another day, or perhaps even sharing it with someone else? That completes lesson two. So I will have lesson three out soon, and make sure you get that activity and food log all filled out before lesson three begins, and we'll go from there again.